curious to me because it's still attached. It looks like it was pushed, but twisted, kind of. Almost like it twisted as it fell down. It's curious. Something simple like that is not necessarily an indication of any Sasquatch activity just because it's by itself and there are no other tree breaks around. I would like to see other tree breaks fairly close, and that's the only one that I've seen in this area. All kinds of deer prints back here. Then there is that. I'm gonna assume that might be a coyote. This branch is a bit curious as well. Actually, it's not a branch, it's the entire tree. And you can see that it's cracked down there at the base. It's interesting to me, and it could just be the way the wind works, but there's a pattern of trees broken down right there. It's odd. Here's the thing. I'm in small town USA. This is Harrison County, Kentucky. And while there aren't a lot of reports that come out of this direction, I had an experience when I was younger down at a creek here in Harrison County. No visuals, but my dad and I were out fishing, and I would say 80 to 100 yards off in the bush, we hear this just ungodly scream, and it kind of sounded like a woman, and I don't know, it was like somebody getting murdered. And I looked at my dad. I was in like 8th grade. It was getting dusk anyway. I looked at my dad. I was like, what was that? And he just looks at me. He goes, I don't know. It must have been a bobcat. Let's get out of here. So we literally pack our gear and head back to the house. And it was getting close to dark anyway. But that was really weird. And I never thought anything about it until later in life when I started hearing people report these like awful screams that the Sasquatch do. And I don't know if it's communication. I don't know if it's territorial, what it is. But I know that sound stuck with me, and it was disturbing, to put it lightly. So the point I'm getting at, I never really told anybody about it because I'm from Harrison County as well, and this is just such a small town community. Nobody really talks about that kind of stuff. So even if there are multiple encounters happening, most likely the people aren't talking about it because everybody knows everybody, and before you know it, it would get out, everybody would be made fun of or ostracized or whatever, and that's just the nature of dealing with Sasquatch sightings to begin with, but especially when it's in small rural towns, unless it's accepted by a Native American tribe or something. So I suspect that there are a lot more sightings and encounters that happen here in Harrison County because there's so much woodland. There's so many creeks, and where I'm at today, there's actually the beginning of 3 creeks, and that's kind of what I want to investigate more than anything, but I'm just checking out the woodland as I go. So I just think that there's probably many things that go under the radar because people are either too afraid or too embarrassed or just don't really understand what they saw and don't know how to articulate it to people. Oh man, there's just thorns everywhere. Oh my goodness. Oh, it got me. There's a lot of wild rose. Now, if you look at that wood, that's a fresh break. That's a really fresh break. And that's a fairly good-sized log. You know, a sad reality is that no matter where you go on this earth, you'll always find man's refuse. It's just a shame. there's the creek, but I don't think it's anything that's going to support a major species. I mean, maybe in the spring when it's out running, maybe in the springtime if it's running pretty good, but that right there is a no-go. Okay, this is a good indication. You can see those banks, and they're probably, I'm going to say 5 foot deep, so that means the water at some point has been up there and cut away that bank. So technically in the springtime, this little creek could support a large species of life. This is really odd. Now, granted, it could be a small buck deer. It's still odd to me. There's these little spots like that, I don't know, they look more like fingernails. But that's the power of suggestion, the power of your imagination. Most likely just a buck. You can see that there's all kinds of broken timber back here. But the reality is, so much of this wood is old, and if you go up and look at it, you can tell that it was weathered and it broke off. Okay. I just heard something. There it is. Knocking on wood. That was weird. That was really weird. Okay, I'm hearing it again. It stopped, but it started back up. It's almost like somebody drumming. That's weird. That's what we're looking for. That is a tree that you don't want to mess with. Look at those thorns. Good night. I mean, that one's as big as my hand. The knocking sounded like it was back in here. Even stranger, it did seem to stop when I started talking and moving. And if I stopped moving, then I heard it again. Kind of weird. That's what we're looking for, right? I think. Broken barbed wire. Something big just thumped. 16 degrees with a wind chill of 1 today, so winter time for sure. And it came in all at once because yesterday it was like 45 and I was working in my studio and came out and all of a sudden everything was just iced over. It was crazy. Beautiful, but crazy. Okay, I wasn't sure if we were going to see anything today, but there's a tree going that way and a tree going that way. I mean, this is, to me, it's pretty evident. Now, mind you, This is not snow load like they have in Canada, because this is about as much snow as we get. We got a ½ inch last night. That's about as much as we usually get in Kentucky. And we haven't had a big snow in years. So it's not snow load. And for them to fall in opposite directions, it's tough. Maybe I'm making too much out of this, but the setting sun sets right in between those two trees, which is strange. If nothing else. Very, very odd. Okay, well, made it back in one piece. It was weird coming out, and maybe I just psyched myself out, but I felt like something was following me the whole way out. Just that weird, like, I don't know, like something's on my tail, and I would look around, I didn't see anything. It's hard to tell noise-wise because there's so much cane brake and everything that's blowing in the wind, but I just had that weird feeling like something was right on my tail. But again, I think I'm going to chalk it up to just psyching myself out after hearing that weird wood drumming or whatever it was. I really hope that picked up on Mike, because that was interesting. And it was close, and it got closer, but the minute I started talking, it stopped. So, all in all, a good Bigfoot Christmas expedition. I'm Matthew, and this is Bluegrass Sasquatch. Thanks for watching.